Alright, I'm here to simplify 1.12 villager breeding, and I've downloaded an extra mod to RLCraft and root into my folder. Bounding box outline reloaded is the main mod that we're going to use. Then I'm going to use in this video, I'm going to set it to active. It's going to show me the sphere of where the game puts a village. I'm going to show you how these 4 pieces of dirt and 3 doors becomes a village. And you can see this spear outline in red. This is showing that this is a village. This is the cheapest setup. Weather clear. There we go. And time set day. There's another setup. This is far more familiar. This is also going to become a village. We can see now there's a yellow sphere around here. It is registered this is a village. And this is another design. Just, let's see, 7 pieces of dirt and 6 doors. This is also a village. And I need to describe these now. Alright, so this is the 0 population infinite villager breeder. It is really similar to, it is just taken out Gnom's design of the hole in the ground breeder. This one, it'll work. You'll see on the normal terrain, there's no village set up yet. But if we put it on a non-full block, this will turn into a village. Or I need to reset this village because in order to deregister this as a village, all the doors need to be broken. If you have any breeder problems, this has always been the thing that was recommended. This setup, these infinite breeder setups are very vertical dependent. It'll really depend on the heights that you position the doors and villagers. This one only uses 3 doors, and how it works is that the door detector, we only have 1 villager on this specific layer, and it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What it is 3 blocks in total above the top of the doors. This setup here will allow this platform that this villager is standing here to be both a detect and create the village, but also any villagers here are able to be bred. All these guys would be able to breed, and they wouldn't break the breeder as long as they didn't drop down any blocks to be within the doors here. However, we can also set it up where below it, so 1, 2, 3, 4, there can be no villagers here, so we need to go down a few more blocks. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then at this height we can do it where we have the one guy here detects and creates the village. And below it on this platform we could store all of our villagers that we want to be breeding, and so they just create babies and we could easily sort them that way. One guy up here creates the infinite breeder. Do it like that. And it's kind of similar with this one too, but we're kind of lazy. We don't really care about specifically placing the villager on top. So how we can do it is 1, 2, 3 blocks above. We can even go as far as we want, and we can have a ton of villagers up here be breeding villagers. As you can see, I put down these 3 and they didn't create a village. or below it once again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then will a stand on would be on this layer. 1, 2, 3, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks below the doors. They're not being counted to the population. I just need to add one guy here, and this will create a village here, but they're within the village sphere. As long as they're within the village sphere, they can breed. But if they're close to doors, they'll count towards the population. So this is the one population infinite breeder. This is easier to set up if we like it. And the same rules, we can have the detector, village detector just thrown in the middle, then we can have breeding platform on top or below. And that leads into the more optimal designs for RLCraft. So what makes valid village doors are uneven skylights, checking the 2 blocks that are the height of the door. We can simplify this to just one column. One side has all air blocks, glass, and trapdoors, like, because that'll allow skylight to go through them. And then the other side, and one of these 2 positions, we just throw down a solid block to block skylight, and that kind of simplifies the valid village doors. It has come to my attention that there is a vanilla bug, MC136760, where a passenger of a boat is not saved if the passenger is in a different chunk than the boat. So that means anytime we use a cart with a villager, we don't want the villager to be on a chunk border. So how can we prevent that in RLCraft? Well, first off, I'm going to re-enable reduced DebugInfo. This to true. And yeah, we're back at being unable to see my coordinates on the F3 menu. However, we're still able to see the chunk coordinates, which you can see with the stat chunk relative. Right now it says 15, 15. I can move around. It'll range from 0 to 15. What we want to do in any setup where we have a cart with a villager, we just want to place that setup somewhere in the middle, where like around 7 or 8 to be safe. You can see in this example, I'm going to walk to 7, 15, 7. So my X chunk coordinate is 7, and my Z chunk coordinate is also 7. This would be in the middle of a chunk. And if I turn back on gamerule reduce DebugInfo, turn this to false, I'll get back all my debug information, which lets me show chunk borders, and yes, I'm standing directly in the middle of a chunk. If I were to be near a chunk border, it would be close to, the numbers would be close to 0 or 15, so we want to stay away from those. Alright, so this is going to be the easiest one to build besides making it a breeder out of a hole in the ground. This is built about going to be 64 blocks away from the next one. This is another setup. These are chunk borders, so about 16 blocks, another 16, 16, 16. So yeah, this is 64 blocks away. This is what I would recommend. The distance of, if you did ever choose to build multiple breeders, it's really not a good reason to, because it's pretty easy to just throw in more breeding chambers instead of building an entirely separate breeder. But this one's pretty simple. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks up. Put another block here, 7th block to block the skylight, and our 6 doors here. Then we have a very lazy setup where we just on 3 blocks up, and then another 2 blocks, throw down a transparent block, because that's where we're going to put the villager head in to protect them. And so in a cart like that, and then it's pretty easy to just push him up into here. Make sure you can't see his health. That means no other Lycanite mobs can see him. Only things that will be able to see him is zombies, banshees, and reapers. So run away from Black Plague. As you can see, the spear has shown that this is now a valid village. Let's see if these guys will start breeding. Whoops, accidentally spawned a little one. Breeding can start up in take a while to start up, but they should eventually get going. Yep, we see hearts, so these villagers are having breeding attempts. And we might see them successfully breed. Hearts is generally a good thing. It means that they're making breeding attempts, although it doesn't guarantee that they will breed together or successfully breed together with that attempt. It's kind of random if they do successfully breed. And there we go, after waiting forever, breeders can be slow. We finally have a child that was born naturally, and he's just walking out now. And then this should keep breeding. It can take a while for breeding villagers to breed. So yeah, as long as you give them enough food, just give it time, and they'll eventually create villagers. But that's the advantage of these very open field types, time set day, is that you could stock a ton of breeding villagers instead of building a ton of different individual breeders. And since this is very vertical dependent, we'll stop seeing hearts if, say, villagers were standing at this height. This is about where the doors are. This guy will be part of the village now, and we'll stop seeing hearts now. There won't be, at this height, he'll see the doors will see him, and it'll count him to the population. And in this setup, that'll make 2, and that maxes out the population. So, since we maxed out the population, no more hearts, no more breeding. Kill that guy, get him out of that height range, and then hearts will eventually start to appear again because they have breeding attempts that are successful attempts to breed. This is the best manual feat design I've come up with so far for RLCraft. Real simple. We can stack a ton of villagers in carts and then build pretty easy feeding chambers where we can easily throw in food like carrots. And then on top, I just went ahead and this design just threw together the specific height 0 population village setup. You can always throw on that one population detector design and just use the bottom breeding part if you want. You can do it like that. And so how's this one built? 1, 2 blocks up is our cart layer. Then we would just align it with pushing in carts just alongside of these 2 blocks here. Just pushing carts full of villagers. And so up 2 more blocks, then we throw down a slab there. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. We build up 4 up, more up, and that'll be our door layer where we put down 3 doors. And then you can choose how you want to put down the solid blocks. You might as well make it all solid blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks up more from the door. So that's the 1, 2, 3 where the village will stand on. I made a glass here, so it's a non-spawnable block. Or you could use light to make it non-spawnable. But let's see. Let's get our villagers in here. As you can see down here, these villagers can't see the door. And then this setup here is with the full feeding setup around here. The 2 blocks to line them on. Here at this 3rd layer, they have to be blocks that won't suffocate the villagers. So even here, recommend using glass. And if you want to be cheap, just use path blocks. The slab here is help for the villagers to toss food around to each other and pass it around. And you just make a little pool with 1 water flowing to feed the villagers in. And we'll fill this one up too. You could also just start it off with just 2 villagers, and slowly when they breed, the babies will get caught in the cart. And then they'll eventually grow up into adults that way. So you could do it up like that. And let's turn this into an actual village. You can see now the spear around here. This is now a valid village. And let's feed these guys. Here we can see that all the, if we were to throw it in manually, we can just like stand in this corner and throw carrots in. We see our hearts like the other one. And then if there's extra carrots, you can easily just build a little thing to stand on where we collect all the carrots. So kind of like this. You just hold Control and Q to just throw out stacks. They'll go into here. And then if the villagers want to throw food to each other, it'll get caught back into the stream where they get just traded with each other. If in this setup, there might be the quirk where there's a high priority villager who just keeps stealing the food even though they're trying to feed other villagers. There's already a baby there. We might see babies from this group too. But as long as it's within this sphere here, the village sphere, then you could just build more breeding modules. You can see a baby just flew out there. So instead of building multiple villager breeders, you just build more of these breeding chambers. What door is this one detecting? Because it's no, it's just the different heights that made the sphere, the village, actually centered differently. So this is fine. This is built. Did I say the right amount of blocks? Oops, took a screenshot. Yeah, built 64 blocks away from each other, despite the minimum radius of the village is going to be 32 blocks. If we build it at least 64 blocks away from another village. But vanilla village, they can be more quirky. Like I think this one might be registered as 2 separate villages or just one single one. This one depends on how it gets regenerated. But you can see how big this vanilla village is. It's pretty big. And so probably build it far from a vanilla village, but about 64 blocks from any conditions that would make valid village doors. If you're really afraid of mob events, or maybe you're just gonna AFK and just for some reason, this one, because villagers are passive mobs, as long as you have them in loaded chunks, you can have them outside of the 128 hostile mob to spawning sphere. And this is an example of, you could just build a item elevator, a classic item elevator design, with just a dispenser and a redstone clock attached to it to send food up. Turn this into a normal village in a valid breeder up there. Then you just throw in all the villagers that you want to breed up into here. And then you can just fill the dispenser with food, and you can see the items will transport up the item elevator. I believe you can replace the glass with solid blocks and it'll still work the same. The items transport up, and of course eventually the setup here, we have the zero population infinite breeder. This one will breed out, and then the babies will just fall down. You could build it a design like this if you want. This should look familiar. This would be one where you want to be automatic, where you just want to throw greenhouse glass all around here. You can maybe do one auto layer, and then you can manually grind this one layer underneath, or you could turn both of them into breeding layers if you want. And as long as you have air blocks or glass above the flowers that you're using to spawn nymphs, it'll spawn nymphs. So if you only want one layer, you can just throw the nymphs onto this layer with putting the roses there. Or underneath, if you want two layers, you can have the dirt and flowers here and glass above if you want the nymphs to spawn in this layer and provide regen for all the villagers that way. Besides lighting this up, this is just pretty clear what it is already on this one. On the ground, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just to be safe. 6 layers of blocks, and then we build our 3 doors here with more solid blocks to block the skylight on this. And then we can just throw our one village detector up here. And this setup has become a village. And so we can just have all villagers in here. We will need brown coats for them to start automatically farming themselves. And in this middle setup, we pop out 1 block here. And then you use trapdoors in the drop chute so that to help confuse the pathfinding of baby villagers. And on the bottom layer here, if you want to use that as another breeder, make sure you block off adults from going in. And then another cutout for baby villagers to fall down through. And so that's the easy part of this one. Just a reminder, light level 9, everywhere that we want crops to grow, because at night, or if it's underground, or doesn't have skylight, crops will require light level 9 to grow. And also I'll have the world download in the description of this video. Alright, so this is the one I built up on a server, is the greenhouse auto one. It actually has 4 layers, 4 breeding layers, then 2 manual layers for me to go around and harvest crops myself. So here's a potato layer, and then underneath is a carrot layer, and the 2 layers above me are villager carrot layers. And you could stand here and use your greenhouse green thumb skill and just go through the layers. You could also summon Spriggans if you want. There it is, one Jengu, one Geonoc. Oh, did it summon both of those with that? Oh well. But it would supposed to summon and fuse into a Spriggan. A Spriggan is made out of a Geonoc and a Jengu. You need to get enough of the information to summon them both with a summoning staff. And when I would summon it through here, at about this block, it would provide the bone meal effect to the 2 villager layers, and then the 1 layer here. It won't affect the layer underneath me, but I prefer this design if I want to do something, do casual grind, if I want to AFK, like if I want to have something go on in the background, I could do that. And then it's pretty easy to go around to sort these guys. For a long time I used to have this be an open roof, no glass at all, but it's pretty easy. At nighttime, they'll generally be attracted to the middle of the breeder, or normally they'll just walk out and down. You saw a few just fall down here. Eventually you have a lot of villagers. I like to have them stand on double carpet, so they just stand here. Then I could just hold an emerald block and start checking their trades. I personally like to find 15 farmers and 15 Fletchers. And then any first trade librarians I like. So that's a Cardo. All that is stuff I don't want. And that's pretty much about it. Then once I find a villager I want to keep, I can just fly him out with my rock. These are all trash. Sometimes you'll get a Reaper, then you can just smack it and kill it. Out here, you can... Plague was passed on from the top layer, hilariously. Or was that in... Oh no, it's a Geist. See, even the Geist here is just casually standing there because he spawned a double carpet, which is pretty hilarious, and he spawned as an Infernal too. I can just smack him, he's dead, he'll just spawn some Demon Fire. I don't really care about these villagers too much, I'm breeding a ton of them. Thunderstorms Bestowment, nah. Farmer 16, 17. There's a Shepherd. Fisherman, depending on what you're searching for, it might make your what you're doing faster. But I want to find something, for example, as you here's a 15 Fletcher. So what I can do, pick him up, and he's being picked up. I could check with F5. He's underneath me. And then I have 3 sortings. These are my 15 farmers. These are my 15 Fletchers. Then these are all the librarians I wanted to keep. And yeah, that's about it for this breeder design here. I don't know why it's not shown, but at nighttime with, what is it, solid block in the middle, then air and transparent outside of the door. This setup would trick the inside center to be inside of a house, trick villagers into thinking that, and they run towards the center. I'm not sure why I'm not seeing it right now at night, but this is why I built the switch here. This would, even after you swap it all, this would put our transparent block there, solid block there, solid block there, solid block there. So this would swap it to all transparent and down the middle, and then solid blocks all on the outside. This would have swapped the behavior. It would require you to reload the chunks or reload your game, so the game regenerates the village and sets it up the other way. But since I can't observe the behavior right now, I won't guarantee it. But that's we still get a lot of villagers dropping, even though I didn't see that behavior right now. It's supposed to have that behavior because then it's easier at night when you see like a ton of babies just drop down the hole. The height I built this at is right below where the Djinns start spawning. So at like, I think 128 or 125 is when gens can start spawning regardless of light level. And so I built it up right below that. You can just count from sea level, so take a river. That water source there would be 63 and you just count up from it. Then below, I stand around what would be around Y level 105, and below all the villagers will be standing at is about 70. So this is not out of range of a Lycanite mob event. So even with the roof, there might be a chance that within the about 20 to 30 block range that a Lycanite mob event can spawn a flying mob. If it is in the mob pool for it to spawn, it might be able to spawn inside where I'm storing these villagers, so this could be a bad place to be storing all these villagers here. But there should have been enough time that I've wasted for the summoning mana to have restored. So now I can try this again. Summon one, then swap to the other one. And then, yep, I can see the Brigand's Foot now, and I can start seeing the bone meal effect. So this rate, I think, looks similar to what they experienced on the official Echo Twist server a while back. And I think this rate of bone meal is supposed to be it's incorrect. How fast does this go? Yeah, for this large area of crops, it's pretty fast. Let's be going. So this may not be the future rate of Spriggan crop boosted growth rate, so keep in mind in that. But that should be about it for what I've done in the server. Oh, this is their nighttime behavior. This is what I wanted to show off anyways. Now that they've mega grouped up in the middle here, you see this ton of villagers here. If you want this behavior where they start trying to run to the center and group up into this big mass, I even have a Minimap mod. I can zoom into it and show it off more. You can see all the villagers are all bunched up in the middle here. This is the preferable AI behavior that we want of the villagers, because then this will force a lot more of the babies down. They'll still sometimes be able to grow up into Dawson's chamber, so you might have to go purge your this breeding chamber every once in a while. I'm like quite laggy already here, although granted I'm also recording on OBS, which also generally lags my computer. But once again, I showed off the setup. If you don't want this behavior, if you just want them to wander around at night and be less likely to run towards the middle and send the babies away, you can flip these, change the setup where it's transparent blocks and air down the middle. Then on the outside, you just put like a solid block, just a single solid block. That should be it. And then that behavior is more preferred if you want the breeder to slowly fill itself up with adult villagers before, sending the babies away. So that should be about it for this, for what I've built on this server here. Oh, also I've built these, or built this one, the AFK one, far away from like where community activity will be, or so other online players aren't loading this tons of villagers, because villagers are one of the laggiest mobs in the vanilla game already. So yeah, probably if you want to have like a mass breeder, just keep it unloaded when it's not in use. Just be good to your server and or computer. Don't like build it in your spawn chunks. That would be a lag machine. I also built this one for someone else to use. It's pretty much the cart design one with the toilet, with the carrot toilet where you just throw in food into it. There's a block above, so when winter comes, the water doesn't freeze. And the villagers again stand on double carpet for them to stand still, toss in a ton of carrots. This produces, I think, villagers faster. You saw them toss food a little. You can see they can toss food to each other and it works fine. This produces more villagers than the AFK one, because if you have a massive crop field, you can feed them with fortune tools, and that will create more villagers that way. If you prefer to manually grind up the crops to feed the villagers, you can do it that way, and it should be producing more because the villagers can't harvest with fortune, but a player can. You can skip these next clips if you want. They just trying to wait for villagers to breed. I'm just showing off that villager breeders also work in any modded biomes too, but this is Defiled Lands, which has the spooky biome tag. You can check the RLCraft wiki for more about that. But a spooky biome is where banshees are part of the normal spawn tables, so probably wouldn't want to build a breeder in the Defiled Lands. But here I'm just comparing two different breeding setups I have here, one in the Defiled Lands and one in a vanilla biome right next to it, and they both produce hearts, and they'll both take forever to produce babies out of this. So we can wait forever. I'm using the envelope box to pull out and see if there's any babies that have been made. Since there's not any walking from underneath the glass, it's all adults here. So now we could wait forever until a baby has been made. So here I can find a baby now, and so after forever they finally made a baby. And so general rule of thumb that I'm gonna say, can't really confirm for sure, but as long as you see hearts, that means they can breed. And it just may take forever like they did in this example. And then their baby also came out from the vanilla biome too. Here's the real end game, making a villager breeder in the Lost Cities, and not only is it in the Lost Cities, it's in a Parasite biome, because why not? Got a breeder running here, and you could skip this if you want, but once again, we're going to wait forever for a baby to be made. Here is our first successful breeding attempt. Let's wait for our second one, just to wait for how long it takes, which is forever. high quality content.